Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it was an interesting Finance Committee meeting when this bill came before us. I posed questions. I got a blank stare. And we moved to the next person being recognized. There was simply very little explanation of, for example, why would we sign on to a plan that includes schools that have not received accreditation, but they're in a process of applying for accreditation? Why on earth is that a good idea? Now, this body, interestingly enough, I think the day before or a few days before this bill was in Finance Committee, heard the distinguished gentleman from the 23rd, the chair of our Higher Education Committee, walk us through why we needed some real scrutiny on some schools that have been set up around our state. 238 schools purporting to deliver education and credits to students that entered their doors. And as I recall, our higher ed chair of the Higher Ed Committee, it was up between 200 and 300 schools that were problematic and had to be closely watched because there were irregularities that were troubling. In some cases, a school that closed up and all there was a kind of a blank storefront. There was no place to go to find any records or any background on what happened to that. And we heard and being on the Higher Ed Committee, I certainly supported the passage of that bill to allow scrutiny and transparency about bad actors that are in the field of education, but not really delivering education. So we heard that bill in the Higher Ed Committee. We passed that bill unanimously in the Higher Ed Committee, and we passed it on the floor of the Senate under the leadership of the distinguished gentleman from the 23rd, our Higher Ed Committee chairman. And yet we come with this bill, which is going to sign up for a proposition coming from the feds where schools don't even have to have accreditation to participate. And when I raised that during our review of this bill when it was coming to a vote, I got blank stares. No explanation of why we would sign on for that when we had just heard from our Higher Ed Committee chair days earlier and voted in unison for his proposal to have scrutiny of schools that are bad actors. But we blindly, dare I say, accepted this bill with this language in it that we're signing on to a scheme that includes schools that don't even have accreditation. Okay, so on those grounds alone, skepticism would be more than appropriate about this bill. But nonetheless, it passed, it zoomed through on a party line vote. And it also has language in it that makes it permanent. That purports to handcuff Georgia's future governors and General Assembly members by forcing us into a federal voucher program that becomes, in the words and the language in the bill, becomes the permanent policy of the state of Georgia. The permanent policy. And we were informed by our Finance Committee chair that Legislative Council was not familiar with that language being used in our Georgia Code annotated, a permanent policy of the state of Georgia. But it passed. This bill passed on a party line vote. I simply say to you, be ready to be held accountable when you cast your vote for what this bill in fact purports to do. It is a less than ideal approach. It hitches our wagon to a star. We know not where it will land, and frankly, there were few, if any, answers to the questions that were raised about the bill in the committee process. So my friend from the 45th has the job of working this bill and passing this bill, and he got the bill passed. And highly skeptical would be how I would describe the skepticism that you should use in looking at this bill and what it purports to do. If there are any questions, I will yield. If not, I'll yield the well.
Senator, you have
Thank you.
one question or you'd like